From the lowest to the highest, from the furthest to the nearest, from the smallest of the smallest to the greatest of the greatest, yoga is about all of life, everything we do, all of existence. My name's James Bogue. Welcome to the Whole Life Yoga Podcast. Namaskar. Today I'm going to speak about a Sanskrit verse that is often recited before we study the Bhagavad Gītā. And in the Bhagavad Gītā Chapter 2 Immersion, which I'll be teaching very soon from October 2024 through till May, June 2025, we will recite this and another verse at the beginning of every session. And this particular verse is invoking the Gītā. It's praising the Gītā, reminding us what it is doing and what it's helping us to do. So I will recite this verse and then I will speak a little bit about what it's invoking, what it means, and the intention or attitude that it can invite us into when we approach this amazing mirror text of the Bhagavad Gītā. So here's the verse. Om Sarvo'paniṣado gāvaḥ dogdhā gopālanandanaḥ Partho vatsaḥ sudhīrbhoktāḥ dugdhaṃ gītāmṛtaṃmahat. So, Sarvo'paniṣado gāvaḥ. Sarvaha upanisadaha gāvaḥ. Gāvaḥ is the plural of the Sanskṛt word go, which means cow. Sarva means all, Upanishad. So all of the Upanishads are the cows. Now, before we go on, let's consider the opening phrase. Sarvo'paniṣado gāvaḥ. All the Upanishads are the cows. Now, you may be aware that in the Indic tradition, the cow is a creature, an animal, that is held in especially high regard. And there are many reasons for this. One is that the cow is celebrated and fabled for her gentleness. I remember one time when I was studying in India with my now deceased senior teacher, Acharya, who in his retirement, amongst other things, had heritage breed cows on his own little organic farm. And one time he was telling me that he had read news reports or heard of incidents of cows attacking people in Europe. And he said, these are not cows. A cow would never attack a passerby unless this person was being a terrible menace. It says these are not cows. These are animals that have been interfered with, that have been hybridized, that have been aggressively bred, and they're no longer cows. They are something other than a cow. Their innate, inherent, beautiful cowness has been interfered with by overly ambitious, greedy humans, perhaps. But it's been interfered with one way or another. The cow is celebrated for her gentleness. She's also celebrated for her generosity. And the reason for that is that the cow, once she has fed her own calves, will happily share the surplus milk. And cow's milk can be used to feed animals and keep animals alive from many, many other species, including human beings, of course. So the cow is a symbol of the munificence, the plenty, the abundance of Mother Nature, of Mother Earth. This extraordinary planet, which is so fertile, which offers us so many amazing, nourishing gifts. One thing that I find I found it disturbing for decades now, is this utterly disgusting narrative that we need to depopulate the planet, when this amazing planet could easily sustain a much larger human population if only we lived in a much more balanced, respectful, sustainable way with our resources. Not raping the land, not buying and selling that which nature gives freely, but actually tending the land, being custodians and guardians of this amazing munificence of this extraordinarily beautiful planet that we are blessed enough to have a life experience on. Anyway, the cow is a symbol of the munificence of life. From the Indic perspective, life is this extraordinary opportunity, this amazing opportunity to learn and to grow, to become more of who we really are. Life is a constant education, and we can keep learning all life long if we make ourselves open and available for the learning experience. So all the cows, what do they do, cows? What do cows like to do? If you have a herd of cows and you let them out in the morning, what will they do? They will wander this way and that, hither and thither. Some cows will go in this direction, some cows will go in that direction. They won't necessarily all stick together. Some might fancy the scent of those wildflowers over there. Some may prefer the pasture in that direction. And before very long, the herd of cows may be spread in many different directions. Some will be up in the hills, some will be down in the plains, some will be there amongst the rocks, some will be there by the stream, and so on. They will go in lots of different directions. Does this remind you of anything? It certainly reminds me of what can so typically happen for a human being. Within the field of our awareness, we have amazingly fertile powers. Our senses, for example, our action powers. As we move along the highways and byways of life, our different sense powers, our different action powers can push and pull us in different directions. For example, we might be drawn to something that's visually very beautiful in that direction. We might be drawn to some beautiful sound over there. We might find ourselves overcome by a desire to listen to something, or taste something, or touch something, and so on. And we might even feel that these different desires are competing and spreading us thin. We might feel like we're not really fully here. And how does that feel? Less than optimal. This is the opposite of yoga, which means coming together in unity, in harmony, in togetherness. But this feeling of being torn and split and spread far and wide is very normal and natural for human beings, because we do have many instrumental powers. And when they look for the things that are most charming, most nourishing, they're just doing their job. What we need to learn to do as human beings and as aspiring yogins is to learn to harness these amazing capacities of our sense and action powers. But in the context of this verse, Sarvo'paniṣado gāvaḥ, all the Upanishads like the cows that wander in so many different directions. And what does this mean? Well, the Upanishads are that section of the Vedic literature. They're often sometimes referred to as, or they're associated with the teachings that are known as Vedanta, the culmination of the Veda, the end of the Veda. They're the most recent portion of the Vedic literature. And in the Upanishads, we find teachings about yoga. In earlier parts of the Vedic literature, there is quite a lot of emphasis on ritual action and on how to live skillfully in the world. What type of rituals to perform in order to, for example, have good harvests, be fertile, all these types of things. When we come to the Upanishads, the emphasis shifts to not only how can we live in such a way as to foster and maintain a deepening harmony in the reality of earthly existence, but how we can work with the gifts of earthly existence to actually transcend it, to recognize our essence, and perhaps eventually to become one with that. So we're no longer identified with the things that come and go, but we remember that deathless part of ourselves, the essence that is our undying soul, we might say. So this is the concern of the Upanishads. Upanishad literally means to sit down near, and it refers to a body of teaching that traditionally was communicated between a master and the students would sit down near. Now this sitting down near is also very significant, because there's the idea, if we're going to be a genuine, skillful yoga teacher, we have to sit down near to the teacher and the teachings. In other words, we have to listen closely. We have to give the teachings our honest, wholehearted attention and presence. We can't engage with them in a casual, negligent, hesitant, or inconsistent way if we want to really approach the experience that they are pointing us towards. So Upanishad refers to the body of teaching, but in classic Sanskṛt style, doing many things at once, it's also telling us about the type of behavior, the type of orientation, the type of attitude that it's important to cultivate when we undertake any type of yogic study. We want to sit down close to the teacher. Now, to sit down close to the teacher in the Indic tradition also has certain implications. There's the idea that one sits down close to the teacher when one has prepared oneself, when one has, for example, ritually bathed, when one has brought something to demonstrate one's readiness to study and one's respect and appreciation and openness for the teachings. So the ritual bath, what does it symbolize? It means that when I come to these teachings, can I do so? Can I come to these teachings clean as possible? In the sense, I might want to take a shower before I come to class or before I sit down with the Bhagavad Gītā. Taking a bath or a shower is often very refreshing. But more broadly than that, we might say that can I come to these teachings with a freshness, with the eyes and ears of an enthusiastic child who is full of wonder and curiosity to learn? If I come to the teachings with an attitude that says, oh, I already know, or an attitude of skepticism or fault-finding, I'm going to impede my own learning experience. So can I come, certainly with exacting spirit of inquiry, but can I also bring this sense of wonder, this sense of curiosity, this openness, this willingness to change my mind, to see things in ways I perhaps might not have allowed myself to see before? This is also suggested by the word Upanishad. Can I come with this spirit of openness, inquiry, and wonder? So we see that just a few syllables, there is so much suggestion. And when we're looking at Sanskrit verses, it's important to recognize that from the perspective of the Sanskrit tradition, the magic, the real messages always reside in the suggestion. We always want to work from gross to subtle when we're doing anything to do with yoga practice. We start where we are and we work gross to subtle. So we keep inquiring. We keep looking in. And as we keep looking and exploring the texts and the teachings, they will reveal more. They're like miracle mirror texts. Every time we look into them, they show us something more. And so it is with verses like this. The more we recite them, the more we invoke their spirit, the more they reveal to us. How does the verse continue? So the first part, Sarvo'paniṣado gāvaḥ. All of the Upanishads are like the cows. Dogdhā gopālanandanaḥ. The milker is Kṛṣṇa. Gopālanandanaḥ. The one who is the Nanda, the son of Gopala. Because Kṛṣṇa, in his childhood, he was the son of a cowherder. So he was the joy of the cowherding people who he grew up with. And then he also took on the name of Gopala, because as he grew, he became the leader of that community. His insight, his brilliance, his irresistible charm made everybody turn to him for guidance, for advice. And there are many beautiful stories of this. Krishna's early life is full of rich instruction, but that's perhaps for another time. Dogdhā gopālanandanaḥ. Kṛṣṇa, the one who knows how to lead all the cows. The one whose charm is so rich, so compelling, that all the different people in the community and all the cows will come towards him. He's an expert milker. He's an expert cowherd. He can bring all the people and he can bring all the cows together. So in the Bhagavad Gītā, who is the teacher? Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa, who knows how to bring all the different parts together. He does it in an extraordinarily beautiful fashion in his own rich and varied life. One thing about Kṛṣṇa's life, he does so many different things to such an extraordinary level. He allows himself to be given fully to all these different stages and episodes of his life. And so we see him as a cowherd. We see him with multiple assassination attempts on his infant and young child life. We see him step into the realm of politics and disputes between kings and would-be kings. We see him as a warrior. We see him as a husband and a lover. We see him going to be a student. We see him as a teacher, as he is here in the Bhagavad Gītā. Gopālanandanaḥ is the dogdhā. The milker is Kṛṣṇa. Now, when we've got all these cows, there's the idea they've roamed far and wide, because the Upanishads, they are broad, they are diverse. They're written in many different styles. Some of them are very distilled and pithy. Some of them are written with stories, with dialogue. But they're all different. Just like a herd of cows. Just like all these different parts of ourselves, moving in so many different directions. Kṛṣṇa, as the expert cowherd, knows how to bring them all together. So we have all the cows representing all of the wealth, the richness, the nourishment that resides in the Upanishads. Think back thousands of years ago in the land that is now called India, when there were fewer people living there than now live in the city of Mumbai, for example. This was a land of tremendous plenty. So if you're a cow, how is your life? You go roaming in South India and you've got lush fields all around. So the cow is drinking in all of this nourishment from the sun rays, all of this nourishment from the lush greenery with who knows how many varieties of herb and grass and fruits and berries and all these things. So the Upanishads, they're offering us so much nourishment, so much sustenance, so much practical wisdom. But the Upanishads range far and wide. If we want to get the milk, we want to get that nourishment out, we need an expert milker, someone who can distill it, someone who can transmit it. And that person is Kṛṣṇa, gopālanandanaḥ. Now, we've got the cows, the Upanishads. The Gita is considered the distillation of all the Upanishads. We've got the expert milker. But even if we've got an expert milker, the cow won't give her milk unless something else is present. Of course, these days, all sorts of horrific barbaric practices are visited upon cows. But in the natural scheme of things, that munificent, bountiful generosity of the cows will issue forth once she has taken care of her own calves. The love of the mother cow for her calf, it's called vatsaḥ in Sanskṛt. And it's symbolic of the unconditional love of the mother for her child. So we have the cows, we have the Upanishads, we have the milk of Kṛṣṇa. We need a calf. And in the Bhagavad Gītā, we have the calf. We have Arjuna, who is Kṛṣṇa's dear friend and devotee. They're very, very close. And Arjuna is in dire straits. He's in desperate need. He finds himself in a terrible situation, the most stressful situation imaginable. A tremendous battle is about to be joined. But Arjuna, he loves going, normally anyway, he loves going to the battlefield. Warriorhood is his profession. Archery is his speciality. And when he goes to war, Normally, he feels like he is exercising his craft and his expertise. He loves it. But this day, everything is different because all around him, in both sets of armies, he sees the people who ordinarily he feels he is fighting for, the people he feels he is fighting to protect. And now they're arrayed all around. And so he thinks, what good can come of this? Whichever side prevails, this war is going to destroy all my near and dear ones. It's going to destroy everything I've been fighting to protect my whole life. I don't know what to do. All the rules that he's lived by up to now, they're no longer adequate for the task at hand. So he's in a desperate situation. But, fortunately for him, and fortunately for us, he has by his side Kṛṣṇa, who understands the human condition and also understands how to navigate it skillfully. So Arjuna finds himself in the classic human situation. As human beings, yoga reminds us, we have this gift of conscience. We have an internal GPS, an inner pilot. But sometimes our connection to that inner sense of guidance gets interfered with. It gets shrouded, veiled, suppressed, repressed by so much conditioning, by our fears, by our desires, by our imprintings. And so sometimes we do feel very clearly, this is the right thing to do. We don't have any doubts about it. But other times we come to these dilemmas where we feel torn. And this is especially the case where life is inviting us to grow. Life is inviting us to enact and embody more of our deeper innate potential and actually our deeper desire. Arjuna wants to do what is referred to in Sanskṛt as shreyaha, which means the greatest good. What's going to be for the good of all? What's the optimal thing I could do? But he doesn't see how he can do that. So he asks Kṛṣṇa, his teacher, how he can. Because the situation he finds himself in, he just doesn't know which way to turn. He looks in one direction, that looks terrible. He looks over there, that also looks terrible. So he feels torn between two options, neither of which seem to feel like he can actually do it. But Arjuna acknowledges this and surrenders to Kṛṣṇa's teaching. And then the teachings unfold. So Arjuna is the calf. Once the mother cow has fed and nourished her calf, she will freely share her surplus milk with whoever is in need. So, first part of the verse, Sarvo'paniṣado gāvaḥ. All of the Upanishads like the cows. Second part, dogdhā gopālanandanaḥ. Kṛṣṇa is the milker, the expert milker, and the calf, Partho vatsaḥ, is Arjuna. But who can enjoy the milk that comes forth in the dialogue between Kṛṣṇa and Arjuna? When Arjuna surrenders, owns up to the reality that he does not know, he hasn't got it all worked out, he doesn't know which way to turn, and he asks Kṛṣṇa for his help, then we can all enjoy this discourse, this teaching that Kṛṣṇa gives to Arjuna and then to all of us, or to anybody who is interested. Sudhīrbhoktāḥ. So bhoktāḥ, the enjoyers, those who can be nourished by this teaching, those who can enjoy and appreciate this teaching, who are they? Sudhīhi. Dīhi, it refers to the light of intelligence. Sudhīhi, any person whose powers of awareness and intelligence are oriented towards that desire for shreyaha, to do that which is actually really going to be beneficial. Anybody who has that orientation of being open, willing to learn, we can all benefit from this amazing nourishment of the Gītā. We can all learn, enjoy, and be nourished by it. And how is this nourishment of the Gītā? Last part of the verse. Dugdhaṃ gītāmṛtaṃmahat. Dugdhaṃ, that which is milked, gītā, is then given in the form of this song, this poem, this dialogue between Kṛṣṇa and Arjuna, in the form of the song. It's in beautiful poetry, full of memorable imagery, which makes it that much more potent, that much more easy to digest and assimilate and remember and install into the fibre and fabric of our being. This is one of the things that's so wonderful about the Gītā. It's this extraordinarily beautiful, potent poem. And as we practice it, as we study it, as we recite it, the more we turn to it, the more we can weave its practical wisdom into the deep understanding that is permeating our own system as human beings navigating this realm of duality, of ups, downs, comings, goings, pleasure, pain, joy, sorrow, and all the rest of those changes that life is heir to. So who is the Gita for? Anybody whose attitude is open to it. And how is the Gita? Dugdhaṃ, that which is milked, in the form of this wonderful poem, this wonderful song. Gītāmṛtaṃmahat. Mahat means the great. Amrita means deathless. So it's telling us at once, the wisdom of this teaching is eternal. It points us towards the truth, the deathless. It invites us on the path towards the remembrance, the recognition of the deathless part of ourselves. And it does so through this immortal dialogue. This dialogue that has now been around in the same form for at least more or less 2,000 years in these glorious Sanskrit verses. So when we recite these 32 syllables at the beginning of any session where we are studying, reading, contemplating, engaging with the Gita, we're doing many things all at once. We are inviting this attitude of openness, reverence, affection, appreciation for the text. And as we do that, it's like we are setting ourselves up to be able to drink in and imbibe its practical wisdom more easily. We're setting ourselves up to be able to digest it that much more easily. Just like a masterful chef might give you an apéritif or an antipasto that prepares the body, it sparks the metabolism, let's say, to then facilitate the easeful digestion of the riches which will then be served. Similarly, when we sing an invocation like this, when we invite ourselves into this attitude of openness, wonder, and gratitude, we create a situation in which the amazingly practical wisdom of the Gita can reach us today, at this moment, when we interact with it in the way that's most nourishing, most helpful for each of us. And that might be different on different days, in different situations, at different stages of life. But nonetheless, any time we are in need, if we approach this type of teaching with that type of attitude, it always brings succor. It always brings sustenance. It always brings nourishing insight. And I find it often illumines where I've been getting in my own way. I'm going to be starting a new online immersion on chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gītā, which is considered the cream of the whole teaching, the essence of the whole teaching. So it really distills everything that gets elaborated in the 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gītā is distilled in chapter 2. I absolutely love these 72 verses. The poetry is jaw-droppingly beautiful, very memorable, and it's so practical. The course will run from mid-October 2024 through till the end of May or potentially the very beginning of June 2025. It'll be 60 hours contact time, possibly a little bit more, and there'll be 15 hours of recitation time as a minimum. Last year we did a Living the Yoga Sutra course. It was very nourishing. It was very instructive. And if we're working with the Bhagavad Gītā, I can say it's going to be all of that and more. So hope to see some of you there, and let me know if there are other things to do with the Gita or the broader teachings of yoga you'd like me to speak about in episodes like these. Meantime, to close, I will recite this verse a final time. Om Sarvo'paniṣado gāvaḥ dogdhā gopālanandanaḥ Partho vatsaḥ sudhīrbhoktāḥ dugdhaṃ gītāmṛtaṃmahat Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you for listening and or watching. And if you've listened to watch this far, one other thing, please do like and subscribe. I think that will help this reach more people. Thank you. Bye for now.